Hello and welcome to the Salty Sarge Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and anywhere else you subscribe to your favorite podcast. I am Hunter, and today I'm in official uniform because we got a little game. But first, let me introduce you our game host, the Salty Sarge.
Come on down. Hey, folks, how we doing today?
What game do you have for us today?
Well, in every profession out there, you know, someone always has like a complaint, if you will, right? Like if you're at a restaurant, your food isn't that great, so you go complain. Well, in the world of law enforcement, everybody has a complaint. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to come up with an idea of, we'll call it complaint or no complaint, you decide. And these are 3 different incidents that involved me out in the world of law enforcement, you know, where it was my very first complaint to, you know, a most recent one, actually. And there's one kind of in the middle. So, you know, it's kind of funny because, like you said, you know, when you go to like a restaurant, people have complaints, but it's like, it seems like in law enforcement, everybody has a complaint against an officer. I watch all these videos and it just gets frustrating, and sometimes I agree with them. You know, not everybody, I got a caveat here, is not everybody is the best at their job, and they're not having a good, sometimes they might be having a good day, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, not everybody's the best ref, no pun intended there, or not everybody's the best nurse or teacher, things like that, you know, so we all have complaints, but we'll decide today whether or not these incidents were really worth the complaint. So let's go back about, 17 years ago to a time where a young free officer was patrolling the mean cities of the metro area, and it was actually at the end of his shift, and someone called in and said, "Hey, I've got a tire problem in my truck," and this is a part of the metro. I cruise over there, and as I get there, this guy's standing there, and he's got this big, like, souped up big tire truck, right, and it's got a flat, and he's like, "Hey man, like, I need you to change my flat." And I was like, excuse me? And now, mind you, he's not disabled. He is a young guy, and he's in the Army. And he told me that he worked locally, and he was a mechanic in the Army.
And you don't work for AAA.
Exactly. That's a trooper's job, by the way. Actually, technically, back in the day, troopers did do that. Anyway, so I don't mind helping people change their flat tire, okay? I'm not saying I wouldn't do that. But this instance, hear me out. He's a young guy, 20s. He looks at me like, "No, you need to do this." And I'm like, "I don't have the equipment to do it. I don't have a jack. I don't have the equipment to do this for you, man. I'll give you a ride." He goes, "I'm not taking that. I don't want a ride." He goes, and I said, "I'll give you a ride to the Army base locally. And, you know, you can have a buddy bring you back. You know, fix your truck." He goes, "No, you're going to fix it. I'm not leaving my truck right here." And I'm like, "Dude." And he just kept arguing with me about it. And I was like, "I'm not changing your flat tire, man. Like, I'll assist you. I'll watch you do it, but I'm not doing it." And he just kind of was just so bothered by that. So I was like, "Well, bye-bye." I just got in my car. I mean, we were going back at it a couple different times, and then I leave. Well, that night, a supervisor comes and he goes, "Hey, this is exactly what he said, okay? Did you refuse to change a guy's flat tire?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Well," and then there's several supervisors there, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well," because at the time I didn't have they call them pool cars. Okay, so when you're new, you don't get you'll see police officers across the country, like different states or even metropolitans where they have their cars at home. Well, it's called a program, so they get to take their cars home with them, right? But you have to be on probation, or you have to have a certain amount of time on it. I was still too new, so I didn't have a car yet, and I didn't live in city limits. So when you get that car, you might go buy you a jack and jumper cables that the department doesn't provide for you, okay? They don't pay you. I don't get a stipend or money to cover that stuff. And mainly I only covered it because it's easier to change it in my car, you know, like a pit crew, you know? So, and I always wanted to I had a jump box later in life. But anyway, at that time I was like, "Well, supervisor, I got a pool car, and I'm not going to sit here and every shift drag out all my stuff." And I said, "I didn't have any of that stuff." I said, "I'm pretty new." He goes, "Well, you should have it." I'm like, "Well, is the department going to buy it?" "Well, no." I'm like, "So at what point am I?" And I asked the guy, "Do you want a wrecker?" And he's like, "No, I'm not going to pay for a wrecker. I want you to do it." And I'm just like, I provided every service I possibly can. I was like, I'm done with this guy. And he goes, well, he said that you refused to change his flat and all this stuff. And he's just throwing up all these accusations. And I'm like, and he went to file a formal complaint on me because of, he called it negligence of duty or something. And I was like, whatever. I was like, no. I go, no, we're not going to do that. So that was the first time, like, I got an official complaint where they were going to try to investigate it, if you will, for that. So you decide whether or not you feel like that was complainable. I mean, and that's the facts that are laid out there, okay? And I was on the scene with that guy for like 30 minutes, right, trying to come up with a plan for this guy. So what do you think?
I think it's protect, serve, and change them flats.
Okay,
buddy.
all right. So, we always have critics, huh?
No, AAA is the one you're going to want to call. If you don't want the record, you don't want the somebody to come help you. When is it the police's job to pick up your responsibilities? If you're the one who's not taking care of your tires, if you're the one who's ran over a nail, you're responsible for your tire. I can't go and tell them, hey, I'm out of gas. I need you to go get me gas.
Oh, that happens a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be at gas stations and they'll pull up and say, sir, can you pay for my gas? Because don't you have like a special card? And you're just like, no, but come here, and you use your money and you give them a little bit of gas so they can be on their way. I mean, but people don't see that part of it. Okay, they don't ever hear that part of it, and they don't ever, and I was fortunate enough. I was at a time where now it seems like every police officer out there is always like, look at me on Facebook, like, I helped this person or we did this, and because they're trying to get that gratification, they're trying to show the public that we're not, because somebody out there, which we don't want to go into politics, but we are going to have an episode on some politics because I got some good stories coming up they just happened this week and recently on some incidents that occurred that I really want to discuss some ideas about how to protect yourself. But anyway,
juicy.
So
I like
it'll be a good story. And that's future, but nuggets of knowledge, if you will. Ooh. So moving on, so that's what I'm saying there. So that I don't feel like that was complainable, but that was me. I mean, and I'm listening. If I make a mistake, I'll follow my sword. I'm all about that. I promise you that. I'll be the first to tell you I made a mistake. So the next one, the next complaint that we had, it was several years later. I had moved from the position that I was on a certain part of the metro that the compass pointed north and east, and I had moved to where the compass pointed south and west. And see what I just there? I like that better. So we're not going into details. But I moved down there, and I had a reputation on the compass side that pointed north and east, where it was different environments. So I was a little bit not really harder on people, but I had to be harder because they were harder on me. Yeah. So when I moved to the south and east, it was more like Days of Our Lives drama, and I was night shift, and it really was Days of Our Lives drama because. It was like, and I'm not targeting a specific age group protected class older than 40 because that's protected class now, and I'm protected now because I'm over 40. But this particular group, this lady calls in and she goes, "Hey, my ex came over. He's not supposed to be here, and he like did something to my house and came to my house and beat me up or something." And she had a boy. This was her ex, and she had like another guy friend that she was hanging out with. Mm-hmm. And, of course, they were intoxicated a little bit. I feel like they were, but we don't know because we didn't do a test or anything, okay? Alleged, but I'm pretty sure they were. Mm. So, at the same time, another guy's calling in saying, "Hey, this lady came over to my house and attacked me." And I was like, ooh, the plot thickens. So, I'm trying, and normally when two people call in on each other, like, you definitely... you want to go hear both side story, which I like hearing all three sides anyways, because I'll tell you on this cast all the time, there are three sides to everything. And if you take that with you, nuggets of knowledge, we got to come up with something for that.
We're going to have a drop.
But if you take life in your relationships with your kids, your family, whatever, work, if you take three sides to the story, right? Theirs, yours, and the truth. And you go, hang on a second. I heard your side. Let me hear their side. Because it may be completely different and it might make more sense. Mm-hmm. It will change your life. I'm telling you. And as a law enforcement officer, that is something I have definitely figured out is you have to hear everything, okay? Because you never know when it can bite you in the butt in court or in certain situations. So I go to this lady's house. She goes, "I called you first. I want you at my house." So I go to her house. she lets me in, and as I come in, there's like this big table, and there's like paperwork of all different kinds, like case numbers and like restraining order papers. I'm telling you, there was like a big old like table full of like bills, and she had been going out with this guy for years, right? Mm-hmm. So at the time, her friend was there with her, and she just kind of staring at me with like these like weird like eyes of like just watching me and just intrigued by the story, what was happening. So that same time, the lady tells me the story. She goes, yeah, I went down. I was out on a date with this other guy who we're not going to talk about, who exists, but we're not going to bring him in the story. And I went, okay. And her friend's like shaking her head, and she's got this damn dog. And she's pet this little dog. And the dog is like looking at me too. It's like, the dog looked drunk. And the lady just kind of like, she was more like stone drunk, And she just like, the dog was looking at her and watching me. And every time the dog's head would move, the lady's head would move at the same time. And they were like focused on me, going back and forth. Well, then this lady, she's just very animated. She's like, you don't understand. I have all this paperwork. He came up to the house. And as we're standing there, he comes in, he knocks on the door, and he recognizes the guy that I'm on a date with. And they're like, hey, what's up, Bobby? And how do you think that made her feel? That pissed her off even more. And he goes, hey, man, you don't want to sleep with that. She's got some kind of problems, And then, of course, that escalated things. You threw like gasoline on that fire. So, and the other girl sitting there, and she never would go into like what happened. And she said, we didn't go down there, and I took his phone or something. There was accusations about him taking his phone, or he beat her up or something. She punched him because she got mad. Mm-hmm. So he leaves, and she goes to his house and accosts him because she lost her date. She lost her fun for the night, and that's what she was pissed about. So I'm trying to figure out the story, like trying to get details from her, and I'm like, lady, I looked at her and said, none of this makes sense. I said, but what I think happened was this. And I always go with, like, you ever watch CSI? I stop them and I go, you ever watch CSI where they go, this is what really happened, And I go, let's paint a picture. Let's go, like a moment. Yes. And of course the lady, the dog is like looking up like at this guy. Like there really is like I have a monitor. I'm like, see, look at the monitor right here. See, now we're going to go back in time and see what really happened.
Flip a few channels.
This is what really happened. And I tell her the story, my version, and she looks at me and I said, lady, you're just a liar. That's all I said. I go, you're a liar. I didn't cuss at her, nothing. I said, you're a liar. Mm-hmm. She crosses her arms, walks straight to the door, opens the door, and she just goes, sir, you may leave. And I literally snap my feet together and I go, yes, ma'am. I walk right out the door and she goes, I am filing a complaint on you. I was like, okay, whatever. Hi-ho, silver away. Here we go. So I get out to the street and she comes out to the street. And mind you, she's intoxicated, allegedly, but she is intoxicated. The second, nuggets of knowledge, the second you step off your curtilage into the public roadway, you now become the police officer's problem. So just remember that. And I told her that. I go, lady, I wouldn't step in the street. She goes, you need to get off my street. I go, man, it's the public. I can be right here. It's my duty to protect all this neighborhood from you. And of course,
however, intoxicaren, you are not allowed to be here.
Yes, intoxicaren, exactly. And I was just like, and she goes, I want a supervisor here now. So I contact the supervisor, who I really didn't know. I knew him, but I never really worked around him, and he knew my reputation, so he was nervous. He's like, oh, God, here we go. Salty Sarge, like, went compass porting northeast on this person, and, is probably, like, cussed her out, screamed at her, and left. And I did not do that. I did no such thing.
No such thing.
So he comes pulling up, and she's standing there, and she walks up. She goes, I want to speak to the supervisor. He goes, I'm the supervisor. And I tell her what happened. I said, hey, I just called her a liar. And he goes, that's it? I said, yeah. I said, ma'am, you're a liar. And she's standing there. And then he goes, that's exactly what he said to me. And I want to file a complaint. I want him fired for this. That's exactly what she said. So my supervisor goes, well, ma'am, did you in fact lie to him? And she pauses. She goes, yes, I did. and then he says, well, wouldn't that make you a liar? And she's like, she pauses again. There's that calm pause. And I'm just like, instantly gratification over here. I'm just like, yeah, you're chewing that, Karen. Yeah. And she goes, yes, sir, I am a liar. And he goes, okay, you can go back to your house now. She goes, okay. And she walks right back out to her house.
You see the face start drooping
Oh, man,
down.
I'm not lying to you, dude.
No.
I was rolling. And of course, the supervisor was like, he's like, dude, like, I was really expecting this to be like a crazy deal. I was amped up. I was like, brother, like, give me a little bit of faith. I'm not that stupid. I know my area. I know my audience. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, so this is Days of Our Lives drama, dude. And, oh, man, I'll never forget that. And she ended it right there. But, again, I feel like that wasn't complainable because I called her out on her, falseness and everything. But,
I would say that. I mean, you're kind of seeing through the story and you're finding the holes.
Through the BS.
Your BS detector went on.
Oh, yeah, my deciphering was definitely going up.
And, I mean, there's about 1,000 ways worse you could have handled that than just calling her a liar. But
yeah, I could have called her a beep beep liar, but I didn't.
Beep liar.
But I didn't do that. I just said, hey, you're just a liar. But anyway.
It sounds like the supervisor was kind of on the same boat of, really, woman? Really?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and some I've been on situations where they're like, hey, you can go file a complaint later, like whatever you want to go do. But if they file through the super, usually they try to take care of it. But that was number 2. So I don't know. I feel like that wasn't really complainable on the officer, that situation. And that was before body cameras too. That would have been a good body camera to have on file because it was pretty funny. Because the look when I said, lady, I think you're lying, the friend with the dog, that was the best part. She was just looking at her like, and she spoke. She goes, he knows. And that dog is still looking around where she's looking like, he knows the truth. How does he know that? And I'm just like, because I know. I'm not a rocket scientist, lady. Like, this is not my first day on the job. But anyway, so I had about 10 years in on that one. But that was one. So then there's one that happened recently where, okay, there was an accident, and it was a pretty bad accident. It was a dump truck hit another car, and I was going to another hot call. When we say hot call, like nuggets of knowledge, hot call would be where a situation where there's like a violent crime going on or something, and you need to get to that call quickly. Yeah. Sometimes you'll see officers run code 3, and that means we call code 3 with lights and sirens. So I was heading to a code 3 call, and I look up and I see the crash. And I was like, well, those guys are over there. I probably should go to this because it was a dump truck, man. I mean, it hit this little SUV, which I will say cars are built but a lot better now than they were then. That person might have been killed about 10 years ago. Yeah. But this dump truck, he come in on overtime and made a U-turn and didn't see her and nails her. Oh, man. And so as I pull up, there's this guy, and he's standing there, and he's just like freaking out, like he's doing like all kinds of like motions my way, like he looked like one of those, those advertisement blow up things, that jerks around. That's what he looked like, and he's just kind of like throwing his hands up, like she's right here, the person that hurt, and I'm like looking for a dead body. I'm looking for like, where's the driver's at? I'm like, and as he's running up to my police car, I'm not even parked to get behind the crash to kind of block the traffic. Yeah. And he's just still, and I'm like, I roll my window, I go, hey, let me get my car parked first, like, I got it. It's right here. I see it, you know? And I said it just like that, right? There's no exaggeration. Sometimes there's a tone in my voice where the sarcasm just spills out of me, and I can't help it. Yeah. That's just me. So, yes, it bites me in the butt, though. It does. Yeah. So I walk up, and he goes, this lady's involved. We'll come to find out, she worked for our department. She was a detective. And she was just cruising, and she got hurt. And I knew her. I recognized her. And he made it seem like she was like dying, and she looked pretty messed up. I'm not gonna lie to you. It wasn't a good day for her. Yeah. It wasn't a worst day. She survived and walked away, but she looked hurt. And the other driver felt bad. Well, this guy, I said, hey, thank you. You're a witness. I'll get your information. And there's a taco truck across the street. So they all go to the taco truck because that's where all these people were watching it happen. Yeah. And so later on, we're waiting for more investigators to come out to configure this crash, because it involved one of our personnel that was injured. So as a street officer, we don't work, and we have a specialized unit that does that, a traffic investigation unit. So they come out and work the crash, do their diagrams, fly drones, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Well, as I'm waiting, I'm over at a car and I'm talking to some other officers, like a private conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm like doing the motions of this guy. Like, and I didn't realize, I didn't know where he was. I thought he was across the street. He's standing like 10 feet from me, evidently. I later find this out. And I'm over there like, yeah, you should have saw this guy. It's like he was bringing in aircraft, on an aircraft carrier, like, come over here, over there. And he was just flopping around. And I was laughing and everybody's laughing, and they're like, oh, well then the next day after it's all done, that's the best part about patrol. You just go home and you come in next day and it's like a new day. Like you start over and you just go through the process again of new stuff to come happen.
Yeah.
Well, supervisor calls me and says, hey, you remember on that crash? I said, yeah. And she goes, there's a guy. This was several days, actually.
Yeah.
This was like a week that he called in.
He was thinking about this all week.
Dude,
like, what do I do? What do we do?
He dwelled on this like a lot. So he calls in, supervisor calls me, and I instantly knew exactly who she was talking about. I was like, oh, is that one guy that was like the drama king? Mm-hmm. Like the guy that was
hand
talker. The charades guy, and so, the charades guy. So we're sitting there, and I'm imagining it in my mind, him doing that again, and I start laughing. And she starts laughing. She goes, "It's not funny, Salty. It's not funny." I'm like, "But it is funny." And she goes, "Well, he wants to file a complaint on you." I go, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, I guess he was standing over there and he heard you talking and saw you, and I'm a hand talker too, but not as bad as this guy was.
Yeah.
But I was over exaggerating. I should have got the Academy Award for it, no doubt, because I'm over there and the guys are laughing, and luckily the news wasn't there or anything. But I'm doing it, and I know that he was probably irritated, and it hurt his feelings, probably, because in his mind that was a very dramatic event, and he was there to help, and everybody wants to save people and stuff, and it really, my heart rate didn't even go up. It was just like a deal, no big deal to me.
Yeah.
So he tells her, that the supervisor, that he's being very insensitive, like that was insensitive, and he witnessed a bad crash, and now he has PTSD from it. And he goes to therapy, and of course, I instantly thought, I just kind of paused, and I was like, I asked her, I go, "Are you messing with me right now? Like, are you joking with me? Like am I being punked?" She goes, no, this is real. You need to be more sensitive. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And of course, my favorite statement is, if we go to war, we're going to lose, because we have no soldiers anymore. We have no men anymore. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, ladies, you want a man. All right. You want a man in your life. If you're a lady, you want a man, not someone that's going to go, "Oh, I saw something bad." Look, I get it. Things happen out there. You witness things, but you have to remember that most average people only experience 1 to 2 traumatic events in their entire life. A police officer responds to 800 at the minimum, right? And that's like an average police officer in a small town, okay, or a small municipality. You get on the bigger cities, they may experience
thousands.
And so they deal with it, and that's how we deal with it. If you see police officers laughing on the news, they're not picking at the family. We're not making fun of somebody, particularly on the scene. I might be telling a story to a buddy of mine that I hadn't seen in 5 years. Mm-hmm. And we're like, "Hey, you remember that time?" And we're laughing about it, and yes, we have to watch ourselves. We use a code, and we're like, "Hey, like, be careful, you don't want to be too insensitive." And we kind of check each other, but that particular situation, I mean, come on. Really? Like, you're going to complain on me because I'm over here talking about it? And yes, I'll admit the fact that I was making fun of you, no doubt. But imagine, okay, here's my thing, tech guy. If he's at home and do you think he's going to act in an emergency situation? Do you think he's going to be able to get the mindset to go do, right? Do you think he's going to jump into action?
You just don't know.
He won't.
Yeah.
He'll panic. He'll freeze and go, "Oh my God, what do I do?" And police officers, firemen, first responders, soldiers, they're trained to just act. They're going to do. We don't just sit there and watch.
Yeah.
We go. And there's some good documentaries out there right now on Prime that I really encourage people to watch, and just watch the officers in those situations. Like, that's what my spouse pointed out, was like, they're just in the elevator and they're like fixing to go get this guy, and they're just so chill. And I'm like, I know. That's how I am. And I'm kind of, and I mean, I would be the guy, like, I would like have elevator music going, or I would come up like elevator, you know, I've been joking, or like, they'd be like, Salt, stop, Salty, no, let's be serious. But I feel like, though, it kind of breaks the animosity, you know, like, it kind of tones it down, like, hey, like, guys, you with me? Let's focus, you know, whatever. But that was another incident that happened recently that I felt like that wasn't something that shouldn't have happened. And there was another good complaint, but we'll talk about that one later, too. That was this ninja guy. I got video on that one, but
I'm going to go ahead and give you the complaint on that one. I'll say this. Make fun of the dude, but on the other side of the taco truck.
Yes, away from the taco truck. I didn't know he's standing there. Or know your audience.
Yeah.
Or like look around and...
Yeah. Where's your awareness here?
Yeah, that wasn't very good awareness on that. But it was a close scene, though.
Yeah.
It was a close scene. Meaning, you know, I thought he was... I don't know. I screwed that up.
It's close scene.
I'll accept the fate on that one. I feel like that might have been complainable, but... Maybe not too much trouble, but maybe like sensitivity training. Yeah. I don't even know what that consists of, but I failed it multiple times.
All right. Well, do you have anything else on that?
No, I mean, I just, it's just really hard to go out there and not, and sometimes when people come to you and it's like, to them, it's like the most, and you have to keep yourself in check. You know, because sometimes when these people come out on these calls and it's like the most traumatic event, and it's nothing to.
It's a Tuesday for you.
Yeah, you know, and I'll throw in like, well, you know, did you like certain stories or certain situations? I'm like, well, what'd you do next? You know, and I kind of throw in like, you know, and they're like, why are you doing that? I'm like, I don't know. It just sounds cool. Like, like I'm
just trying to progress the story.
I mean, dude, we should have like background music going on. You know, these they just kind of look at you like, you're not taking me serious. I mean, okay, there's a caveat to that. I'm not doing that on like serious situations. Okay,
good. Like,
I mean, I'm not going in there like, oh my god. If it's like a serious deal, yes, I'm going to step up and above, you know, and do what I need to do as an investigator and get the things done. And I have proved that 10 times over in my reputation as an officer. But if it's like let the raccoon do, you know, it's like,
the raccoon
I mean,
the cat,
I'm sorry,
the
dude.
cat do.
Yeah, I mean, you're just like,
you're like, what do I do?
You
Why
actually,
are we here?
And you know, I've had conversations recently with people. I'm like, I'm just over it. Yeah. I'm like, you actually called the police for that. Mm-hmm. And I've counted how many police officers show up.
What's the most ridiculous like call that you responded to and then actually did what they were asking?
Like, what do you mean, please?
Like, somebody calls the police for something stupid, and you're like, you know what? I'm not even going to argue with you. Let me just do this stupid, menial task that you need me to do.
Okay, so it was another tire incident, but I only did it because it was Fabio and his smoking hot girlfriend. And he was a rich guy, like rich snobby kid.
Yeah.
He was like in a Mercedes or a real nice car, and we're on this major highway, and he's muscled up, fake muscle though, okay? Not like... Yeah, you could definitely tell he's not strong, and he's definitely not strong in the mind. And so me and my partner are standing there, and I'm watching this guy attempt to change this flat tire, okay? And I'm just like, you know, just watching him, and I'm like, dude. And this girl is like, you could tell she's embarrassed. She's like, oh my god, like really? So I just was like, hey man, let me get this for you. And I jump in there, and I'm like flexing, you know, just popping that tire off, jacking it up. I did it in like 5 minutes. And she's looking at me like, nice. And she's looking at him like, you puny wuss. And that was the best gratification, was like, yes. And then there was another one, that was one more, same area, where these Asian fellas, and they were clueless to the world of how to fix this car. And I'm not going to lie to you, I was irritated because they kept calling the police. We kept telling them, call a wrecker. We kept closing the call out, and they kept calling.
Yeah.
Well, we never actually went over there yet, right, to really see. And when you do that, but the call is not legitimate enough for you to go over there, okay? Now, people could call the police all day long. Anybody can call the police department. Yeah. We are there 24 hours a day, 365, no matter what. And people do all the time, right? But whether or not the call is going to be assigned, or it gets assigned to us, but the dispatcher can't decide whether or not it can be like closed out, like we're not responding to that. We decide that. We're like, no, headquarters, that has nothing to do with, that's not a crime. We're not going to that. Okay, I did it twice today at work. Yeah. Twice. So, I mean, people think it's a crime and it's annoying and it's a nuisance, but you can't just go violate someone's rights. Sorry.
Yeah.
Constitution, once again, thank you, America. Yes, thank you, President George Washington and Jefferson and all those guys. But anyway, moving on. So I was irritated that the guys kept calling in. So I said, fine, I'm going over there. And it was my district. So I go over there and I might have sat down just for breakfast and ordered my meal. I think that's what pissed me off. So I was like, God, they kept calling me. So I go over there. I get out of my car and I'm screaming at them. I'm like, what? You don't know how to change a flat? And I'm like cussing at them. I am cussing at them. I will say I was very irritated. And they're just looking at me and they had like tears in their eyes. And I was like, oh no. And they did not know. They were like fresh off the boat. Okay. They were college students from UCO and they had no idea how anything was working. And I see their tools. It was crappy. And I felt really bad. I felt low and I said, okay. I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to help you guys. I'm going to show you how to, I said, this is what we're going to do. Timeout, reapproach, new call. How about we do this? I'm going to show you guys, we're going to YouTube the crap out of this right now live. So I go, this is a 4-way, and I, oh yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, dude,
The
they were
Salty
like the camera
Sarge
ones, you know what I mean?
class.
Yeah, it was like, and they're just, and I don't think they spoke very good English because they're both like, yeah, because there's like 5 of them, and it was like,
Well, it's a good thing that other guy told you how to do all the hand signals.
yeah,
So now,
because when I pulled up, and this was a while ago, when I pulled up, you could just see them all just standing around like a bunch of cavemen trying to figure out what the heck this is, like hitting the car, like, oh, what is that, and I'm like, this is a 4-way, and I pop it on there, and they go, oh, and I said, you got to jack it up first, though. And I made them do it, though.
yeah.
Because what's the saying? If you teach a man to fish, like what is, you could take a man fishing, you can, how's it go?
If you give a man a fish, he can eat for a day.
Yeah.
If you teach a man to fish, he can eat for a lifetime.
There you go. If you show these people how to do this, then the next time you won't get a call.
Yes.
So I was like, hey, I walked through the whole process and we all hugged. And of course we took a picture. They wanted a picture and we took a picture and then all their way. And I gave them some stickers and they were just tickled to death. And that was a good experience in the end. And I learned right then that, over the year, that was my youth and I need to be a little bit humbler, and I'm all about helping people though, man. I really do. Like I saw a pregnant lady one time. She's out there trying to do it and kudos to her. You ladies out there, or anybody for that matter, you need to know how to change a flat tire. Mm-hmm. My daughter will know how to do that because that's part of being a responsible driver. What if you're in an area where you have no cell phone service or you're somewhere and you need to know how to plug a tire too. Yep. Because if you have a plugging kit, that can get you from point A to point B and it's a survival thing. Hello. So, she's out there changing. She goes, I got this. I was like, no, ma'am. Ma'am, I can't let you do that. My wife's pregnant. Like this wouldn't be right. So I changed her tire out, and she's very grateful. Well, her spouse shows up and he's like irritated. Not like overly welcoming, thanking me, just kind of like, just looked at me like that was my job. And she was just very nice, but just thank you for stopping. I said, ma'am, anytime. Like, I'm really glad. My hands
like he was mad at you for doing it? Yeah,
like he was just frustrated. He was just irritated that this cop is over here by his pregnant wife and stuff late at night. And I'm just like dude, I would have, if it would have been my wife, right, and she would have been that pregnant, I would have found out who that officer was, and I would have got him a gift card to a restaurant, thanking him for helping my wife. Yeah. Now, I don't want anything. I've never asked for anything. I don't want anything for anything. I do this job too because I do like to help people. Those are moments where you got to step up and help people, right?
Yes.
The weaker ones. She wasn't weak though. She probably would have kicked mine.
Yeah.
But still, she's pregnant. I mean, she's pregnant, man.
You don't want to make the pregnant lady change her own tire.
I mean, any gentleman would step up and do the right thing, So I was like, hey, but I was kind of expecting the gentleman thing to do.
Yeah.
To come up to me like, hey, man, thank you so much. I had a couple of those.
Well, yeah, I feel like that was just insecurity on his part.
Well, we can't go into much detail what I think, but there was more to it. I'll tell you off, but
all right.
But I felt like it was more of that than anything. I think he was just nervous about me just being. It was late at night, so. But anyway, not every police officer out there to get you. Okay, we 98. I would say 99.9% of police officers want to help you, and they're gonna help you. And there's so many incidents out there that never ever get told. And you'll never know about it because it happens all the time.
Until you listen to it here on the Salty Sarge.
That's right. So, we covered a lot here. It's pretty good. I like it.
I feel like we made good progress.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it too.
Good game. I'm glad you came up with it. You know what I was thinking? We do a variation of this game where maybe you have some, not of your complaints, but complaints that have been made. And you maybe sprinkle in a few fake complaints.
Yeah.
And then the goal is for the viewer to decipher whether it's a true or is it false.
That would have been good.
Complaint or no complaint.
There we go. And I think we could definitely come with something like that. Because I've already got something coming to mind.
There you go.
Because since I've been back, it's been interesting.
It's been interesting. All right. Well, before we sign off, we just want to say thank y'all for listening. If you made it this far into the podcast, thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm all about the listeners and the fans, and we want to keep this thing growing. And we got some new ideas coming, and eventually we're going to try to get some video out there. And we're going to have some merch, and we're just going to let this thing take off. We got some good shows planned coming up to get some other veterans on here and some other stories and other perspectives about life. So
and all the comments, all the people who've actually reached out to us like behind the scenes and said, "Hey, this is going really good. Y'all work together." We appreciate that. Special shout out to my dad who gave the Upstairs Future podcast room a great name, and then a day later realized that it's an awful name of the Backdoor Studios.
Oh!
Before we realized it's a double entendre, and that's maybe not the best name for a place where two dudes hang out.
I think it'd be funny to kind of make like a poster of that, like a Hollywood kind of like fake one. I think that'd be funny.
Oh.
Or like a neon, one of my like little neon signs. That's a great idea. I need to write that down.
Do you know the building downtown in the specific region that was bought by a psychedelic rock singer?
Oh, yes.
Yes. It may have been called The Womb.
Yes.
This will be the Back Door.
Yeah.
And we'll have the same entrance. If you never heard The Womb, look it up. It's interesting.
Yeah, and the building is interesting itself.
Yes.
And, that back door thing did happen on Halloween, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Halloween. Well, I mean, wait, the back door story. Whoa, there's no back door. Well, edit that out. Yeah, we don't want that. That sounded weird.
All right, well.
Moving on.
Moving on. We're going to go straight to the outro.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you for listening to this episode of the Salty Sarge Podcast. You can find us on Facebook. Go find us on Facebook. Give us a like. And anywhere else you subscribe to your favorite podcast.
And tell your friends.
Yes, tell your friends. See you later.
See ya.